years ago, Advanced Micro Devices (AMD) was on the verge of bankruptcy. The company had incurred a net loss of $7 billion and its stock was downgraded by almost every financial analyst. AMD's share price had fallen significantly from a high of $41 in 2006 to a low of $2 per share in 2015. Today, the share price of AMD is over $138 with an all-time high of $158, an over 7,000% rise in over 6 years. AMD is cementing itself as one of the most successful computer chip manufacturers in the world by wresting market share from giant Intel. In this video, we will discuss the history of AMD, what led to its near bankruptcy and its recent rise to success. AMD was formally incorporated by Jerry Sanders, along with 7 of his colleagues from Fairchild Semiconductor on May 1, 1969. The company began by retooling existing products to make them more efficient and faster. Its first source of revenue was from a 4-bit shift register. As the company grew its product line, customers came along with revenue. By the end of the 5th year, AMD was manufacturing over 200 products and had close to $25 million in annual sales. In 1981, IBM created the PC and wanted Intel's x86 processors, but only under the condition that Intel allows another manufacturer to produce more chips to meet demand. Based on this request, Intel entered a 10-year technology exchange agreement with AMD from October 1981. This agreement allowed Intel to share its chip designs with AMD to produce clone chips. However, with the introduction of the Pentium processor, Intel stopped licensing designs and clone makers like AMD were forced to develop their own chips. AMD started producing its own processors by reverse engineering Intel chips, but this process was time-consuming and failed to keep up with newer iterations from Intel. AMD released their first original CPU called the K5 in 1996, which matched the performance of the Intel Pentium chip of 1993. In 1995, AMD purchased NextGen to keep pace with market leader Intel. This move helped and subsequent chips had improved performance. In 1997, designers from AMD and NextGen produced the K6 processors, which was faster than Intel's Pentium II. In 1999, the K7 was launched under the brand name Athlon, and it was a major success. AMD's net sales grew immensely from $2.5 billion in 1998 to $4.6 billion by 2000. The company rented out the San Jose Arena to celebrate this immense growth. In the next few years, AMD produced lots of processors and controlled a significant share of the server market. The early 2000s came with its successes and trials. AMD will begin to spend billions on various fab manufacturing plants based on poor decision-making. These heavy investments were dependent on AMD selling chips and maintaining market share in the server market. Yet, this all changed with Intel's introduction of the Pentium M. Intel recruited a small team in Israel that developed the Pentium M, which offered faster clock speeds and processing power. The Pentium M was more power efficient and faster than all AMD chips, which allowed Intel capture almost 100% market share in the desktop and server markets. AMD could not compete. To maintain market share, Intel was constantly iterating on its chips. Almost every year, new modified chips were released that offered improved performance or faster clock speed. AMD processors continued to improve but could not compete in the high-end market. Reduced sales of chips came with financial struggles and internal issues. To improve the situation, AMD acquired a Canadian GPU company named ATI for $2.5 billion, but this caused more internal issues because of changing priorities and different organizational cultures. A great CPU and GPU divide followed amongst employees, leading to poor product quality and extensive delays. AMD's processor releases for 2007 and 2011 did not meet market expectations. To put it mildly, 2012 was a rough year. AMD lost over $1 billion, effectively wiping out its $471 million profit in 2010 and its $491 million profit in 2011, its 2 most profitable years in the last decade. AMD hired 2 people to help turn things around. The first person was Jim Keller, the former lead architect for the K8 range. He returned after a 13-year absence. The second person was Lisa Su, who was Senior Vice President and General Manager at Freescale Semiconductors. She resumed as a General Manager at AMD and 2 years later became the President and Chief Executive Officer. When Lisa Su assumed the role of CEO, she made some long-term decisions which can be summarized as follows. 1. Develop competitive central and graphic processes targeted at the gaming sector. 2. Provide enterprise data and cloud solutions with high performance and embedded processes. 3. Minimize debt. AMD had a past of trying everything in the semiconductor space. They bought many corporations, spent billions of dollars on manufacturing facilities and broke their internal culture in the process. To remedy the past mistakes, Lisa Su streamlined AMD's efforts to products they were great at, and discarded areas they were poor at. She made a big bet on high-performance computing architecture, including computer processors and graphics chips for gaming, supercomputing, artificial intelligence, and other bleeding-edge technologies. While Lisa was turning AMD around, Intel was flatlining. Intel really struggled to transition from a 14-nanometer chip to the smaller, more powerful 10-nanometer chip. During this challenging transition, Intel's supply of 14-nanometer chips used in personal computers did not meet demand in 2019, causing the company to tender a public apology to partners and customers. Meanwhile, AMD brought to market a processor equal in power to the 10-nanometer chip ahead of Intel and created a product architecture that allows it to keep costs low. Intel's challenges cleared the runway for AMD to increase market share in the processor market. Today, AMD produces chipsets used in desktops and notebooks. They also manufacture embedded processors used in electronics that require moderate to high levels of performance as well as system-on-chip products and technology for game consoles. Under Lisa Su's leadership, AMD's total revenue grew from $4 billion in 2015 to $9.7 billion in 2020. This growth is largely from increased demand for its Ryzen and Radeon product lines. Net income has also increased from a loss of $615 million in 2015 to a profit of $2.49 billion in 2020. AMD processor market share grew from 18% in 2016 to 23% in 2018. The future looks bright for AMD. However, based on historical evidence, if they drop the ball, Intel can wake up and take back lost market share. Lisa announced that AMD's strategy over the next 5 years is a commitment to high-performance computing and to bring disruptive solutions to market by combining the company's CPU and GPU architectures. For its GPUs, AMD rolled out its RDNA graphics architecture, which is to last 5 years and will be used for both gaming consoles and personal computers. The CPU roadmap is delivering the Genoa CPU, which arrives on a 5-nanometer architecture with DDR5 support in addition to the new Milan 7-nanometer chip. AMD projects higher revenue than market expectations for Q4 2021. The company plans to focus on selling its most profitable chips. AMD expects to surpass analyst expected revenue targets. The company raised its annual revenue growth forecasts to 65% from 60%, after surpassing expectations for third-quarter sales. In conclusion, the global chip market is tilted in favor of AMD for the first time in a long while. Let us know in the comments if you think Intel will wrestle market share from AMD. Thank you for watching this video and see you on the next one.